New at 10, a routine CDC update to nationwide COVID figures has been the center of yet another theory suggesting that the coronavirus's danger is overblown. But experts say that theory misinterprets the data. ABC 7's David Furtado has details.
As the United States surpasses 6 million coronavirus cases and 183,000 lives, a conspiracy theory making its rounds on social media claims that the CDC said only 6% of their deaths are because of COVID. But that's not true.
If they were not going to die if they didn't have COVID, then that's a COVID death.
The Centers for Disease Control's report released this weekend broke down the deaths. 6% of all deaths listed COVID as the only cause, while the other 94% had a variety of additional factors. On average, there were 2.6 additional conditions or causes per death.
COVID, to a big extent, is a disease of decreased resistance. When people have other illnesses, what are called comorbidities, which pretty well all Americans past a certain age, pick 60 as an example, have comorbidities.
Now, it's no secret that folks with pre-existing conditions could be put at a higher risk of severe COVID illness. The CDC has been telling us that for months. But one expert says these kinds of conditions are extremely common, like obesity, which affects 42% of U.S. adults and accounted for just over 5,500 deaths.
Well, about 60% of adult Americans, if I remember the last statistics, suffer from hypertension. And if you include glucose intolerance in the diabetic diagnosis or pre-diabetic, within the next few years, you're looking at 60%, 2/3.
Some of the other causes listed: respiratory failure, pneumonia, and even cardiac arrest, which can be linked to symptoms from the coronavirus's attack on the body.
The pneumonia is the primary diagnosis, primary complication, sepsis, pneumonia.
And it's caused because of COVID?
Yes.
And the data collected by the CDC? Superficial, meaning there's no way to tell who would have died without COVID unless death was already imminent.
Totally difficult. Yeah, you don't know that. I mean, if they're in hospice, they were going to die anyway. That's about the only thing you can say. You know, people live for years, decades, with hypertension, with diabetes, with emphysema.
Now, the theory that COVID-19 has only killed roughly 9,000 people is disputed by experts, one even telling reporters that the country has seen 200,000 more deaths than usual this year. But that misreading of federal data, which originated from a supporter of the QAnon conspiracy theory, was then retweeted by President Donald Trump, sharing that misrepresented information to over 85 million people before that tweet was taken down for violating Twitter's rules.
I think misinformation, lack of facts, is always a problem on anything.
For ABC 7 News, I'm David Furtado.